Hey folks, it's Jonathan again. Getting ready to make two more wheel adapters for my four-wheel drive wrecker I'm building. I made two of these, and of course I didn't do it on camera or anything, but bought these pieces or had them cut out with a plasma cutter, a CNC. They are 13.5 inch outside diameter, and the OD hole is 5.5, and they're 1.5 inches thick. So they weigh somewhere between 30-40 pounds a piece, and probably closer to 40. And they've done a good job cutting them out. I have got to do two bolt patterns on them, and of course countersink for the back side for the studs coming out, and countersink for the lug nuts on the smaller pattern. And I'm going to set these up on the old lathe and go ahead and bore the center hole first, and that way it'll give me something straight to work off of. And I'll have to dial indicate them in a little bit, but the best you can anyway with something that's been cut out with a plasma, you know, not machined out. But what the deal is here is I'm not a machinist, and I do have a bunch of machine shop tools, but if you want to learn how the correct way of doing this stuff, you'd want to watch maybe Keith Rucker or Keith Fenner or something like that, because I don't have the equipment they got. I sure don't have the tooling or the, you know, everything for measuring like they've got. So this is going to be done sort of an old school way, and I'm not saying it's the right way. It will work, and I mean that's something that I haven't had any trouble with. But you know, it might be the way I do things may be frowned upon, or you know, even laughed at. I mean, that's the way that goes. But you know, I do the things the way I want to do them, and they seem to work fine. And you know, we're gonna set them up, do them the way I like to do them, the way I do them with what I've got to work with. And you know, like I said, don't use this as a training video, because I'm definitely not skilled enough to be training anybody. But we'll get it up in the lathe and go from there. Okay, we got this piece chucked up, and just want to show you a couple things about my lathe here. If you'll notice, there's no through hole on this lathe, and one of the reasons is this lathe is just about 145 years old. It's made somewhere in the real early 1870s, and it's a Bement and Son, and you can see I'm running I am using a actual 3-inch ratchet strap that I actually made into a flat belt. I've just got it wired together, and I don't have a good flat belt for it, and I've been watching for one on eBay, but price wise, you know, some of the leather ones and stuff don't go cheap, and you know, it always comes down to money, and I can't afford to just to order one. But I did a lot of changing on this machine. I built the overhead to hold it, and went from a 13-inch pulley to I think that's a 24, because it was running way too fast. Matter of fact, it was running so fast that I think they was using the back gear all the time, and you can see the gears on the back gear, not the ones on the big gear, but the ones here are just about sharp. So and you know, you don't see too many lathes, you know, that still work that's this old. And I believe it's 20 inches, but you know, over the years they have, you know, chopped and cut on it, and you know, it probably shouldn't have been saved, but I saved it anyway. I had to replace some teeth on the gears inside of the apron there, and done a bunch of work to it just to be able to use it. But I mean, there's a story behind it too, and that's part of the reason that I done this lathe, or you know, kept it and got it. But and I'll tell you it later. I mean, I'm going to do you know, of course, my series of my machines in my shop. I haven't got to this one yet, but one thing about this lathe, Of course, it's got a nice tailstock, and you know, it was froze up, of course, when I got it, and you know, it's working really good now, and you know, ready to go. And everything works really good on this machine so far. But the thing about the machine is it's actually 14.5 feet between centers, and I think that's something like 168 inches. So it's about as long as you'll find for a lathe, and like I said, it works good, and really hasn't been an issue with anything since I'd got it running. There's the back gear is still froze. I can't seem to get it to work itself loose, and I actually have the bolt loose and keep it loose and hoping that it's going to free itself up eventually here, and then I can actually maybe run the back gear. But you know, it still runs pretty fast, but not too bad. It's got a 7.5 horse squirrel cage induction motor. I think the motor is about a 1913, 1914. But either way, I mean, it's a good machine. It's got I guess that's about a 16-inch chuck and 4 jaw. And like I said, you know, they didn't run through holes on the really early lathes. It's actually got a center in there. And but we've got our piece chucked in here, and we're going to dial indicate it in. I'm going to dial indicate the outside, and the reason being is I'm closer to my 13.5, which is you know, my max on diameter. I don't want to go much smaller than that, but this was supposed to be 5.5, and it's only about 5.125, so I've got a long ways to go to turn the inside where I need it. And so I'm going to dial indicate the outside in, and then we'll, you know, bore the inside. And you know, like I said, I'm not a machinist, so we're gonna bore using what we got. I don't know. I don't even have boring bars that will, you know, set up with this old lamp style, I guess is what, or lantern style. I'm sorry, lantern style post. But the hole's big enough that I can actually get a left-handed tool in there and do it that way. And you know, like I said, it's not the right way, but we're going to just get her done anyway. Okay, we got her indicated in, and you can see it. Well, of course, like I said, this is plasma cut, so, but the outside is within about 10 thousandths, which is pretty good for that. And then dial indicated the face in, and that, you know, I had to get that in perfect because I'm sort of center locating on the front rims. They got lug locate, but it's also pilot locate, and so I want that to be, it's got to be square with each other. And I can go back through and face them anyway, but you know, you need to start off with it square to begin with. But we'll go ahead and get set up and do a little bit of turning on it and show you. Another thing on this machine I'll show you, the lead screw actually works backwards. So when you turn it backwards, what would normally be coming out, it's going in. So that's kind of hard to get used to. My other lathes, of course, are not like that. They're the opposite. So it does take some getting used to. But what I've got is a tool holder with left-handed cutter. I don't have I thought I had one that was angled to the left, but I don't. And this is what I used on the other ones that I done. So that's what we're going to use. Okay, I'll show you what I'm dealing with here. You can see I'll turn it where you can see spots where it hadn't hit. And then there's, of course, that's where they started their cut. So it's going to take a little bit to get it where I want it. And it's another thing about using an old machine, and I don't get in a hurry, and I've got a long ways to go with this one, so I wouldn't be surprised if you're looking at 2 hours of machine time just to bore this hole. And I know that's way more than it ought to be, but you know, that's just the way I work. Okay, I think we got all the rough stuff off now. Let's get a really decent cut here. Okay, we got it looking pretty good here. The only problem is I got to go to 5.865, and this is actually at 5.520 right now, and I've taken quite a bit out, so that they cut it a little small, which I'd rather it be small than big, but that's what I was meaning about it taking me a lot of time. And you know, it's an old machine, you don't want to tape it so much anyway, and even if you're using carbide, that's what is hard on older machines, because you know they're not made for taking as big a cut, as far as I'm concerned anyway, especially one 145 years old. But next time you see it, it'll be on the my Gorton 9J vertical mill, and then we'll stick it in the index and head, and we'll start indexing some holes in. But I'll go ahead and get this finished up. Another bad thing about this machine, you know, it's power feed, you know, your table left to right, but in and out it don't power feed at all. And there's no dial on it. You see that's an old horn piece. I don't know what it's, I don't think it's lead, but it's pretty soft. It might be lead, it's hard to say, or maybe Babbitt. But you know, old machine, no dials on it. And I mean, we can set up a dial indicator to, when we get there close to the end, and you know, or just stop and measure. It's not that big of a deal. You know, we're not in production, so we're not in a hurry. But like I said, next time you see it, it'll be set up in the indexing head. We'll go ahead and start doing some of the holes, and I'll show you how that works.